February the 26th, 2017. Guys, we've been watching the Oroville Dam situation for the last couple of weeks, and the last video I did on it, we were looking at about 10 days or so of warm weather with no rain. In a way, that was good, but now NOAA has come out, and they're talking about the Northern California snowmelt is going to create a crisis as temps rise into the 70s. And that's over this 10-day period we were talking about in the video before this. And in the video before that, guys, I actually showed the extreme amount of snow that had occurred in the Sierras and in that entire region through there, but up north of Lake Shasta and even over into Nevada. But it says Northern California will face a new flood crisis for Oroville Dam and Shasta Dam, as 10 days of up to 75-degree weather will spark an early spring snowmelt, with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, rating over 90% of California as experiencing an extreme water year. 90%. Now, mainstream, if you watch it, they're welcoming this weather, and in the sun and 75 degrees, there's nothing wrong with it normally. But in this case, it could create crisis, and let's look at some of that information. It says, because hundreds of smaller dams in Northern California have been allowed to fill, water runoff from the Sacramento Valley from Sierra Nevada fed rivers is running at 130% of average for this time of the year, versus rivers flowing into the San Joaquin Valley, which are running at 190% of average runoff. Now, in the valley, they're talking about 75 degrees, but even up in elevations, guys, at 6,000 to 8,000 feet, 65 degrees in the what they call the mid-mountain elevation, they received 3 feet of snow in the last set of storms. 13-degree above average temperatures are about to trigger what's called an early spring snowmelt. And the Feather River, that's below the Oroville Dam, and actually it's feeding into it from above. That's the upper and the lower Feather River Valley area. But the Feather River below Oroville Dam, that is holding back up to 3.5 million acre-feet of water, is currently running at 196% of average for this time of the year. That's below it. The Sacramento River, below the much bigger Shasta Dam, which holds back up to 4.5 million acre-feet of water, is running at 156% of average. Now, everything was peaked out. Everything was topped off. All the smaller dams are talking about, the big dams, and we'll look at the large sheet on that, but were topped off. So if things had kind of remained the same, maybe just cleared up without the heat coming in. But it's been a crazy year. Without that heat coming in, guys, they may have had time to drain some of the different dams off, feeding down into both Shasta and Oroville, and then in turn allow those two major dams to drain off. So you're probably going to have a lot of water coming down the mountains. So your smaller streams and the areas there, the small bridges and things like that, are going to be in for a lot of trouble. You're going to have to watch that. Pay attention to the roads, because with this temperature rising this fast, guys, it would more than likely start as a flash flood, and you can be caught off guard. This article goes on to say, almost completely ignored during the crisis mass evacuations in reaction to the potential failure of Oroville Dam, the water levels rose to within 11 feet of Shasta's dam of 602 feet. And although Oroville is the tallest dam in North America, Shasta is the largest reservoir in California. It says, despite running Shasta's lower water release gates at full blast since January the 16th, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, and that's who runs this particular section of dams, the engineers were forced to open the upper floodgates for 15 minutes on February the 23rd. That's 3 days ago, for the first time in 20 years. Now, yesterday, which was Saturday afternoon, it had started warming up, and because they had released the gates at Shasta, the water level then, again yesterday the 25th, at Shasta's dam had fallen by 3.99 feet. They said to prevent Oroville Dam from massively pouring over its emergency spillway and flooding over 1 million people in the Sacramento Valley, the 9 smaller supporting dams on the Feather River were allowed to fill up, and I did a video about this a few days ago. During the same period, engineers allowed the 5 smaller dams that support Shasta Dam to fill up as well. Now, guys, if you look at the history of Shasta, it's 604 feet. It was originally designed to be 804 feet, but during World War II, money got tight, and they stopped it at just over 600 feet. Now, they're talking about going back in at 18.5 feet. They're saying it would cost $1.1 billion to raise the height of the Shasta Dam by that much, and it would increase the water storage by 14%. But the Obama administration killed the project in 2014 by filing a 349-page report claiming expansion was a threat to the salmon under the U.S. Endangered Species Act. And we know where the money went. It continues, it says that despite Governor Jerry Brown's campaigning for the $7.5 billion Proposition 1 water bond to provide new dams and flood control in 2014, he moved in April 26 to redirect the $250 million to rewild the Klamath River by tearing down 4 hydroelectric dams. Now, this is one of the maps that we have used and have linked on most of the Oroville Dam videos that we've done in the last couple of weeks. So it's the cdec.water.california.gov, and I will link to it again. But you can see that Oroville is at 77% capacity. Now, that's indicated in the blue line. The red line is the historical average. That's at 111%. Now, Shasta is 89% of its total capacity. Again, blue line. Red line is its historical average, and it's 122%. You can see Trinity, 105% of historical average. Don Pedro's been in trouble for a few days. They had to cut through a highway and let this thing drain down. San Luis, 90%. McClure, 92%. You go down Castaic, 93, Pine Flat. But the ones they're talking about, Oroville and Shasta, this is the nation's, or North America's tallest dam, California's largest reservoir. If you scroll up to the top of the page, you'll see where you've got different links. Click on reservoir, and because things are changing quickly, it's not normal weather, let's click on the hourly rate. And they've got it broke down into categories, sorted north to south by river basins. And these, again, the hourly rates. And you can see, if you scroll down, you've got the different, basically the runoff areas where they're tied together. But if you come down to the Feather River, we're dealing here with Oroville Dam, and we'll look at that first. Just click on it. And here you've got basic information. Oroville Dam, elevation 900 feet. You've got your reservoir elevation, 843 this morning, 841, 92. So you see a little over a foot drop, but they're trying as fast as they can to lower it because of this snow melt. But you've got the outflow starting this morning at 49,879 cubic feet per second. They've increased that because, again, they know what's coming. They remember the damaged spillway, don't forget that. So they're somewhat limited because they don't want to completely destroy it. At one time, when we were seeing everything come over the spillways, they had gotten up to the outflow to around 100,000 cubic feet per second, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the inflow this morning at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the inflow coming into the dam was 28,081 cubic feet per second. Now, this afternoon at 1 o'clock, again, Pacific Standard Time, you're up just under 1,000 cubic feet per second, from 28,000 to 29,000. Now, page back, and you'll see that in the Sacramento River Valley, which is west of the Feather River Valley here with Antelope Lake, Lake Davis, Frenchman, which are all extremely high levels, you'll see Shasta Dam. But just quickly, I want to show you something here at Lake Davis and Antelope. First, your elevation 4960. See that? It's part of the Feather River Basin. Reservoir elevation 5,379. It's creeked up 5,385. So we know more water's coming in, and this thing is full. And going to Lake Davis, elevation 5768. Reservoir elevation 5773. It's all full. Slightly creeping up from 5773.93 to 0.94. It's full. Just one more while we're in the Feather River Basin here. This is Frenchman Dam, elevation 5517, reservoir elevation 558.94. It's creeping up 55.81. See that? Just a little, but it's creeping up, waiting. And so, again, it's full, waiting on the snow. Now moving west, Sacramento River. Let's look at the Shasta Dam. Shasta Dam, elevation 1067, reservoir elevation 1048. It has slightly dropped to 1047.51, just over a foot. That's because they're having to increase the outflow in anticipation of what's coming. This morning, the outflow was 66,000 cubic feet per second. Now it's up to 69,000 cubic feet per second. Not quite 3,000. Just look at your side numbers. But your the inflow, that has not affected them yet. You see that? It's actually dropping from 30,000 cubic feet per second to 29,452. And that's a good thing. That is allowing them about 500 cubic feet per second more to run off without it coming in right behind it. That helps in anticipation of the snow again. Now, guys, in about 2.5 hours, Paul Begley Prophecy Live will be on. I'm going to link to his website. Many of you are already familiar with it. It's www.paulbegleyprophecy.com. It should be a good show. We're going to talk about Oroville situation, Shasta situation, different things that are going on. We always have interesting topics. It's going to be better than the Hollywood show tonight, I promise you, with the Trump bashing during the awards. It's a heads up. Be safe.